Thank you. So, you see this lengthy topic here, and you're thinking, is this all that we're going to hear about? It's important that we talk about this because when we look at companies talking about sustainability, when we look at academic research talking about sustainability, we all have them mentioned in this triple bottom line model in their reports. And there are some inherent conflicts and interlinkages in these reports, which we have to examine to ensure that when these reports go out to the public, they're not misleading. Let's look for a second at how an unsustainable world looks like. What happens when we tip over the balance from what we are currently to this? Let's start with a common phenomenon that's going on right now, El Nino, that leads to warmer oceans. And then let's follow this cycle. Loss of marine life, less ability to absorb carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And that leads to, say, that point, which is more soil erosion. Now, soil erosion in this particular instance is a big problem because that would lead to the loss of topsoil. Topsoil is the soil on which we grow plants, and that would lead us to use more fertilizers, use more crops that are more easy to grow, but these crops have lesser nutrients. That means that the food we are going to be eating a few years from now is not going to help us improve our immunity anymore. We are going to have weak immunity, and then there's going to be a lot of pollution because there's more CO2 in the atmosphere. And general conditions would ensure that we'd be weak, we'd be unhealthy, and we'd just be living as survivors. On the other hand, if you were to look at a sustainable world, now I'm not going to promise that it's going to be an utopia. It's not going to be all smiley faces and cheery high fives. But the problems that you face in a sustainable world aren't about where to get your next meal. It isn't about where to find your next sip of clean water. It isn't about having an unhealthy work environment. It isn't about being discriminated at work. The problems, if any, are about getting up in the morning at 6 a.m. to hit the gym. And there's no guarantee in a sustainable world that you'll hit your New Year resolutions, no promises. So the 3 pillars of sustainability, why do we have to talk about them? As I mentioned earlier, these keep almost every company that talks about ESG, every company that talks about going green mentions this in their reports. And the problem is they don't talk about how there are interlinkages and how these interlinkages end up leading to problems. We're going to look at the 3 of them. Firstly, people versus planet. That is us and how we impact the planet. There are a couple of issues here. There are a lot of issues in which we negatively impact the planet, but we're just going to look at a few of them. For example, one is deforestation. There are small-scale farmers around the world that cut down forests every day for growing crops. And it's not just for growing crops. It's about things like building houses. It's about things like everyday things. And their only source of land comes from cutting trees. Then there's water depletion. Again, I'm not saying that farmers are to blame, but I'm saying that there is no systematic procedure and policy in place that ensures that there are alternative sources of water. As a result of which, 70% of our groundwater resources are used by small-scale farmers. Overfishing. Overfishing is a major problem. And it's a major problem because loss of marine life leads to lesser absorption of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere again, leading to the warmer oceans and soil erosion problem. Food waste. This is a major concern because tying back to the deforestation problem, what happens is that more forests are cut down, more fertilizers are used to produce food, and that food goes waste and it isn't disposed sustainably. What happens is it goes and sits and it rots and produces methane gas. This was good food that could have filled somebody's hungry stomach. Let's move on to the next conflict now. Let's talk about profits versus people. the other two of the triple bottom line model. In this, we are going to talk about employee health. We're going to talk about employee wellness. This is a case of workplace injuries. This figure here, you look at this million years of life lost and you're thinking, what is this? Think about this 30-year-old worker who has 30 years of life ahead of him. If he gets injured fatally today, maybe loss of a hand or loss of a leg, and he can't work anymore, that's 30 years of working life lost for one person. Like that, there are 1.5 million years of life lost every year due to workplace injuries. And only 3% of employees in sub-Saharan Africa get any sort of compensation, any sort of facilities to improve their workplace. Mental health. Mental health is a major topic of discussion, but there's been little done to improve it. Nearly 75% of all employees say that work is their major cause of stress. This goes back to gender equality. This goes back to women in sustainability. This goes back to why women participation in workplace is so low. Nearly 1/3 of women experience harassment at work. Imagine this, you're sitting with 3 of your friends and one of them is faced harassment at work. And only 32% of employees felt that when they reported it. And reporting percentages is also quite low because they face backlash. And when only such a small number feel that their employers take appropriate action, that's a cause for concern for us. Then if we talk about this, we'll also have to talk about the flip side for a second. The 2 points here talk about great resignation and quiet quitting. Great resignation, for example, has cost US economy, in this case, $1 trillion over the next 10 years. And this comes because of retraining, rehiring, and revamping their business image as such. And then 65% of employees quit because without having any other job in mind. This is the case for quiet quitting. Imagine this, your employee suddenly leaves your doors. You have no reason why he left. You have no idea how to hire the next employer so that they don't do the same thing. We are next going to talk about profits versus planet. We're going to touch upon the same issues again as we spoke about in people versus planet, because we want to see how corporates fare versus people in general. Here we see that 26 million tons or 26 million hectares of forests have been lost due to commercial agriculture. Imagine this, you have like 100 agriculture fields, out of that every 60 are derived from cutting down forests. Now, if small-scale farmers did it, it's not excusable, but it's understandable. These are poor people who can't afford any other means. But these are corporates who can afford to buy land, but they don't. They just cut down forests. Water depletion again, the same case. Nearly 52% of companies in food and agriculture and beverages report risk to water issues. These are companies that are most likely overusing them as well. Overfishing again. A lot of companies do overfishing. Now, companies have complete awareness about how to fish sustainably, but it's more a cause for corporate greed than social action that drives their actions. Greenwashing, we've heard other speakers talk about this. 95 companies greenwash in some manner or the other. Now this is a problem because to our minds, it seems that the products are green. To our minds, it seems that we can go and buy these products and we are helping the planet. But by doing that, we are actually harming the planet because we are encouraging this. Now, what can we do? At a micro level, it is true, and it appears to be true, that corporates are the cause of it. It appears that they should be held responsible, and they should be held responsible. But it's also true, and it's also visible, that when corporates present us with celebrity endorsements, with discounts, and with trendy products, and with products that give us like, life is like this, I like this kind of feeling, we want to buy that product. But at the other end of the spectrum is the fate of the entire planet. Your next purchase, the next time you swipe your credit card at a machine, you are harming the planet because you are buying a product that's not sustainable. You are buying a product that's high carbon footprint. And when we know this, and yet we put that credit card down, we type our PIN, and we harm the planet anyway. And we're still standing here talking about sustainability, but we're almost about to overshoot our yearly limits. So what can we do? We are going to be future leaders tomorrow, but today we are individuals. What can we as students do? It is simple to think that our actions have no consequences, because we are just people, right? We are just one person. What difference does it make to the planet if I throw a glass bottle in a plastic trash can? What difference would it make? That's where I'd say think about the butterfly effect. You're standing with your group of friends, right? And all of you have this beer bottle in your hand, and you're just chilling and having fun. So you take that bottle and you go and you throw it in the glass trash can. What happens is your friends watch you. The magic of a social group is that they tend to imitate each other. So the next person who's going to throw the glass bottle is going to throw it in the same glass trash can. And the next one, this creates a norm salience. And this becomes a habit. Habits transform into behaviors. And then behaviors become your mindset. Behaviors become about how you approach other things. For example, your action of throwing a glass bottle in a glass trash can would make you throw a plastic cover in a plastic trash can. If you treat a coworker nicely, you're going to start treating everybody else around you nicely too. Behavioral approach. The thing is, it's easy to change our actions. It's easy to go back and say, I'm just going to take a 2-minute shower because that's more sustainable water-wise. But it's about changing the way we perceive luxury. It's about how we see growth and how we see happiness. It's not about having 25 interchangeable shoes for the same occasion. That's not luxury, that's wastage. It's about being able to buy exactly what you need. It's about going out there and saying, this is what I need and this is just what I'm going to buy. To tie it all together and to bring it back to the triple bottom line model, each of these stakeholders in the triple bottom line model, people, planet, and profits representing the corporate houses, they all have a role, and when they impact one stakeholder, they impact the other as well. So when we take any action as students, and when we take any action as future leaders tomorrow, we'll have to see about how we are going to impact the next stakeholders that we aren't factoring in when we take the action in the first place. I would like to conclude and just say that it is simple for us to take an action. It is simple for us to say, okay, I'm going to donate 100 euros to the charity, but it's more important for us to use those 100 euros better, in the sense that we go out there and buy a more sustainable product that costs 100 euros versus a high carbon footprint product that costs only 60 euros. Think about it. Thank you.